So it pretty much incentivizes people to not even think. It just incentivizes people to copy, cheat. That's why some of them, they don't do like well in the real world, because it's a very different.
If you want to work as a mechanic, I know there's trade schools that only take a year, 2 years, which they pay a lot more than, like other degrees that you go to college for. How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of Driven. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about why the current education system sucks in short words, or, why it's not the best. So just to introduce myself, my name is Alexis.
And then my name is Juan.
And just to get into the topic, we're going to share our personal experience with the education system. I know we went to a public school system, LAUSD, Los Angeles Unified School District. And my personal experience, I only had high school. Elementary, middle school, and high school. I never went to college, so I'll just be talking on those topics. And I know for you, it's a little bit different. I know you ended up going to college.
Yeah, I did some college courses. So pretty much first through 12th grade, and then college. Some college. So I guess some questions that I do have, like, I know school is in place. They have their own systems. They have their own criteria that, to determine if you're a good student or not. How did you perform in school?
I remember going to middle school. It was just going in, sitting down in a chair, and just doing your work and, getting good grades. Going into high school, the way I performed during high school, it was average, if not below average. And then the reason why I did that is it's not because I didn't understand the material, but more of anything, I was just bored the whole day. I remember, going to class, sitting there, learning the lectures, which, I learned, but then having to go home and do homework. I don't know why we did that. I never did the homework. And, because I didn't do homework, my grades fell down. My personal experience with that is just showing up, sitting down, and, trying to they want you to get the best grades as possible.
So you would say you didn't do, the best?
I wouldn't say I did the best. I remember my GPA was, below 3.0. It was maybe, 2.9.
Right.
3.0.
Right.
Yeah. So it wasn't the best. I failed a few classes in 9th grade, and then the same reason because, I was just bored.
Right. And so then, so you pretty much, let's say you didn't do a good job, or you didn't perform well in school. And so do you think that translated to outside life, like in terms of work, even now currently business? Do you think the performance and work, kind of like how it's structured and the system is, do you think it's the same in the outside world?
No, definitely. I would say that it's a lot different in the outside world, because for every action you do, you have a equal reaction. So if you don't perform, if you don't do work, if you don't go to work, then you're not going to get paid. And, you're not going to be able to eat. But if you perform, whether it is you perform during work or, you open your own business, for whatever you do, the work you actually put in is what you're going to get out, as opposed to the school system. You go in there, you get good grades. It's just a grade. It doesn't translate anything. Grades, really, in my personal opinion, all grades is if you're able to do what you're being told. So if they assign you X amount of work during the class, and they assign you X amount of work for homework, if you're able to complete that, then you get a good grade. You get an A. So that's my personal opinion. The grading system in schools is just how well you're able to follow instructions, as opposed to the real world. If you just show up, then it doesn't reward you for just showing up. You actually have to perform. So that's my personal experience. I don't know about you. From your personal experience of going to school, public school, and then going to college, to now being in the real world, what would you say is different?
No, definitely it's a similar experience. In school, it's a lot more structured. It's a lot more rigid. It's more of not even learning or thinking for yourself. It's just about memorizing things, memorizing formulas, memorizing these things, which really in the outside world you're not really gonna have to memorize anything at all. Everything's on the computer. So it's a very different type of learning that you do in school than you do outside. And outside is more thinking for yourself. It's more practical. It's very different. And so a lot of the things that I did learn in school, I do not use out in the outside world. And in school, it's pretty easy. It's not easy. It's just different. It was relatively easy. And so, And so at least for me, for school, it was relatively easy. A lot of the time I did rely on tests, because the thing is that the school, what they taught you was really easy. It was just memorization. And so I just did rely on the test. And then also on the homeworks and stuff, we did copy off of each other. And that's one of the things that... So it pretty much incentivizes people to not even think. It just incentivizes people to copy, cheat, and...
Follow instructions.
So yeah, and I relied on tests, and then I just copied off of people copied off of the others, and so it was just, I think it's a bad system because it forces you to remember stuff and to like think and to learn stuff that you're really not gonna need, as opposed to like learning real life practical like things, like thinking for yourself rather than, and that's why I feel a lot of people think the way that they do because they were taught to think based on the school system.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people don't do well in the real world. When they, like, a lot of people that do well in school, that's why some of them, they don't do like well in the real world because it's a very different world, you could say.
Yeah.
But yeah, even in college, there's nothing that I learned that I apply outside. Nothing. Even in business, it's just like, for example, learning about entity structures and this and that. You could just Google that. Yep. And it'll pretty much give you the same. You'll learn the same thing in like 5 minutes, and in the on Google, then you'll learn that faster than learning it in school. That taking a whole like semester to learn it. So yeah, it's, at least that's my experience with school. It's just it's very different than in the real world.
Yeah, and just going based off that, kind of how you said, like everyone used to copy off of each other. I remember I had people doing my work. I would pay them a few dollars and they would do my work. So let me just touch up on, you said that it's a lot better for someone to actually practice. If, let's just say, they want to go into business, it's better for them to do business, some type of business, than actually going to school to get a degree in business, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think is that?
Well, like how you had mentioned that first question, like I've seen people that come from school that like go into business or like are working with the business to just grow the business, and a lot of their thoughts and mindset is a lot more structured. Like they focus on the things that aren't important. They focus on like the little things that aren't important at all. Like they focus on like just things that aren't important,
like guidelines,
this and that, as opposed to actually things that bring value to the business, which is the product itself, the revenue, the marketing, the sales. Instead of focusing on that, they focus, okay, let's make sure that everything else that isn't really as valuable to the business, let's focus on that and get everything right first, as opposed, and then they don't focus on the things that actually do bring value. So it's very like it's just they work very rigidly or very like structured, which a lot of the times might not be the best, at least when you're starting out. Might not be the best, because at the beginning you just have to there's a lot of trial and error. You just have to go out and do stuff. Yeah.
And I remember during some classes, especially math classes, they teach you a certain way to solve a problem. And like the way I've come to realize is there's multiple ways to solve one problem, and like if you solve it differently than what the teacher actually taught you, the way to do it, it's kind of like, no, that's the wrong way to do it. Follow what I say. So in the school system, they teach you to follow one way. There's only one way to solve an answer, as opposed to the real world. There's multiple ways to solve the same problem. So yeah, in my personal opinion, I think the school system just teaches you how to follow directions. How would you say?
No, pretty much just be a good, and I don't like you like a sheep. Like I don't like that word, because then I know a lot of people use that for like different connotations, but it's just like you kind of like you're a good follower.
Yeah, as opposed to thinking outside the box, thinking for yourself, thinking how you could improve your current situation, thinking about how you could solve the problem in multiple ways. And I know for ourselves, we followed a different path. I didn't go to college. I know you only went for a few years to college.
I went like a year.
Yeah, and I know we wanted to, that business is something we really liked, and that's something we wanted to do. And I know we knew that college wasn't like the only way to go, so we took a different route and actually just, okay, we want to learn business, we want to open up a business, let's just go ahead and do it. We don't need to wait for anyone. We don't need to wait for a paper to tell us that, okay, now you can start a business. So I know we went a different route. Was it the right choice for us? Was it not the right choice? Could we have done something different?
Yeah, so I think the reason why we didn't go to school is because, kind of like our experience with other like ventures that we had. I think that kind of like put us out of school, like put our mindset out of school, which kind of I think was personally the right choice for us, especially in business, because I think a lot of the things that you learn in school, it's coming out of school. Like I've seen like people that, we work with, and then also other people that go to school for business, they just are very like like how I mentioned, structured and rigid, and so like a lot of the times they don't get the things that are important done. And so as opposed to us, like, you know, kind of like we just went out and did stuff. And so I think through like just going out and just doing stuff, you learn a lot. Like actually doing a lot. And so I think it was a whole bunch of things that the reason why we chose, you know, going the way we did. And it's just, I think just, you know, we just went through life, you know, just figuring things out. And I think that's just the, you know, it wasn't like intentionally like, oh, we're not going to go to school for the intention of starting a business, or we're not, or we're, you know, it wasn't with a purpose or an intention. It just happened to be. And so I think that's, you know, the main reason why, you know, we didn't go to school for, you know, for business. Because is, you know, like, also because I think at that time it was expensive. Well, I mean, I think it's currently more expensive, but it's just like we didn't have a way to pay for it.
Right.
And so I know that was the main reason why we didn't go to school. Oh, not the main reason why. It was one of the reasons why we didn't go to school. But it's just, I think just life happened, and it's just, we just ended up not going to school. But I think it was definitely the right choice, because then it allowed us to learn a lot. Like in the decade that we spent, you know, trying to do business, I think we learned a lot. We learned a lot about business. We failed a lot, and a lot of those failures, like, we really learned from those. And so I think it really helped us in this business with all the experience that we had, and actually making it successful, or making it something that, you know, that's actually providing something for us and our family.
Yeah, and I'm not completely bashing the school system. I know, like, if you want to become a doctor, if you know, if you want something specialized, then yes, go to college. I'm not saying college is bad. It definitely, like, if you want to go into a career that, like, a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, you know, go to college. But if you want to do something else, if you want to work in sales, just go out and sell. If you want to work as a mechanic, I know there's trade schools that only take a year, 2 years, which they pay a lot more than, you know, like other degrees that you go to college for. If you want to become an electrician, you know, go to a trade school. But I know a lot of the things that if someone wants to do, they could just learn it on their own, or they could, you know, shadow someone, go work with someone, and, you know, learn from there. Like I mentioned, if you want to go to a trade school and become a mechanic, a plumber, electrician, something in that area, you know, just go to a trade school 1 year and you're good. And that's something also that a degree doesn't mean much. It doesn't guarantee you a job. It's just a piece of paper. It just showed, okay, you know, I was able to show up, follow instructions. I was able to think, you know, above what most people are able to think, and, you know, this is my degree to show for it. But yeah, so that's just my opinions, that, you know, college isn't necessarily bad if you want to go to a very, very specialized field, but it's not the only way. There's a lot of different, you know, ways you could go. And I know a lot of my classmates, you know, that went to college, they're not exercising their degree. They're not, you know, going into the field they graduated from. They're working a regular minimum wage job, and if not, they're, you know, like mid-level management.
I think that's also very prevalent. I think that one thing that's very important that you said is, you know, and it's also very prevalent, is that a lot of people that go to school and they get degrees for a certain thing, they don't use that for that thing, or they don't use it for anything. Because like you said, like a lot of kids, or a lot of they're not even kids anymore. We're in mid-20s, late 20s. So it's not even being about kids anymore. But a lot of them, they don't use their degree at all.
No.
Like you said, you had some people that, you know, have degrees and work minimum wage, or at the very most mid-tier management.
Yep.
And similarly to me, like a lot of people that I went to school with that have degrees, they don't use it.
Yep.
At all. Like it's not even in the same field. It's in the same realm. And yeah, that's also something that I've seen. Like, and also Starbucks is known for that. I think it's known for, like, you know, college graduates that you know, at least starting out. But yeah, and so that's also very like prevalent. That a lot of people don't use. They go to school, they pay all this money for a degree that they don't even use. And so I think, like, it's also very important, like how you said, that school isn't bad if you go there with, like, a purpose and intention. Like, I think trade school is very good, because, you know, it's a lot shorter time, but also the people that, you know, graduate from that, they actually go and apply it to jobs that pay really well. Like you said, doctors and lawyers. I think that's also good. But aside from that, I don't think there's very much value that school brings if you're trying to go into, like, or if you're trying to get another degree for another thing, because a lot of the time, like you said, like, it doesn't guarantee a job, it doesn't guarantee income, it doesn't guarantee anything other than, you know, you spent, you know, at least 4 years of your life, you know, studying something that may not bring any value to anything that you do. And so, like you said, like, you have a lot of those people, no?
Yeah, and I'm not bashing them. It's just that I remember being a senior, and I remember a lot of like teachers, my counselor, and like even like people around me. They're like, "Dude, you need to go to college. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do?" It's like, well, you're just gonna work at McDonald's. You're gonna work a minimum wage
Is
job.
that what they told you?
That's how they made it seem.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't go to college, then like, what are you gonna do with your life? But at that time, like, I know I mentioned it in a previous video. I was exposed to a higher level way of thinking, and so like I already knew the path. I'm like, I'm not gonna go to college, but I'm not gonna work a minimum wage job. I didn't want to work for like someone else. That's like, I already knew that like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe I'm gonna open up my own gym. That's something I had in mind. I'm gonna open up my own gym. I know I also had like soccer. Like, hey, maybe I could go pro. So that was another option. It's like, I'm gonna do anything but go to college and waste my time there, like like following a certain path, and then later on deciding that, okay, I don't like this path isn't for me, I want to do something else, spend another 2 years, 3 years, 4 years going like taking classes for another career path. Like, that's something I didn't want to do. And a lot of people in my grade, they did that. It took them like 6, 7, 8 years to graduate college, because one, they weren't taking all the classes they needed to take, and then two is like they didn't know what to do. They didn't have a clear path. And so like, I know I think a lot of people are also pressured to go to college. And how I mentioned that a lot of my counselors, they were telling me, hey dude, like, come on, you get free applications, go to college, just, it doesn't matter what you take, just figure it out there. Once you're in college, you're gonna figure it out. But what they don't tell you is, while you're figuring it out, you're spending a lot of money. You're wasting a lot of time. How you mentioned, if you go to trade school, you make really good money. You go to school, or you go to class, or you just learn, and it takes you a year, 2 years at most, and you're making good money. Okay, if you later decide that it's not for you, then you could take another route, but you're already making money, as opposed to spending like 4 years in college. But that's just my personal take. I'm not bashing college, but that's just like something that I feel like a lot of people are pressured to go to college.
But also I understand that it comes from a place of not wanting their students to not do anything, because a lot of the people that don't go to school, they don't do anything.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's coming from like, at least there's some place to start. So I do understand that. But then one of the things that, again, like I do disagree with is, and maybe they don't even know, it's just that school isn't the only route. Start working at somewhere else, or go to trade school. But trade school wasn't even an option, that thing that they gave us.
No, they didn't. They never mentioned it. It was just college, or you're not gonna do anything.
And if they emphasize that as opposed to college, I think a lot of people would end up making a lot more money coming out from like the school.
Yep.
And would be doing a lot better for themselves.
Yep.
And so and I don't understand why that's the case, that they emphasize a lot more 4-year degree. I think it's because it comes from the past, where it tended to be the case where if you got a 4-year degree, that you did it better in life. So I think it comes from that, but I think it just hasn't changed since then. Like, at least the mentality hasn't changed since then. Although like reality is different.
And I think a reason for that is also because they were taught a certain way growing up. Like how you mentioned, they were taught a certain way growing up, and it stuck with them. So that's all they know. And nowadays you could do anything. You could be a social media influencer. You could be an influencer. You just record, put yourself on the internet, and you can make a lot of money through sponsorships, through collaborations with people. You could also, I don't know, work in sales. You don't need a degree. You just need to know how to be able to like get a product and sell it to people. So nowadays it's a lot easier to make a living instead of going to college.
And that's not to say that being an influencer is really easy, because then you actually have to bring a lot of value to the person, whether it's entertainment. So it's not like nothing in life is easy.
It isn't.
It isn't easy, but there's a lot more options. I think is what I think, at least what the case is. There's a lot more options than
just going to school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's on my end, because I have like a lot of different other things to talk about, but it goes into conspiracy. Why is the school system the way it is? Is it because like someone had a lot of money, who had a big company, who's all like, okay, I need employees. I don't need people to think outside the box. I don't need people to be really smart, inventing things, competing with myself. So I just need employees. So that's what I'm because I have the resources, because I have the money, that's what I'm start implementing in the school system. I'm have them do a curriculum where they're just following orders. They're good, they're gonna be good workers, And like,
Yeah, but I mean, I think that there's a lot of like, I think it's true, but there's a lot of merit to that. But yeah, it's just like there's no way to prove things. But yeah, I think that's one part of it.
yeah,
That's why the system is, and yeah, it just goes into a lot of like what people consider conspiracies. But then those conspiracies end up being true.
Yep.
So then, yeah.
Is there anything you would change about the school system, or how kids are taught?
Yeah, I mean, if there was anything to change, I think it's the way that, well, one, what you learn, and also the way that it's like learned or thought. And not even that. I think it's just having it instead of memorizing and like just memorizing. I think just being able to think for yourself. Being able to think, I think that's one thing that I would change it towards, or at least gear it towards. Yeah, because like I said, like there's nothing that I learned in school or college that I applied in the real world, other than the basics like English and math but that's the elementary. You pretty much just only need elementary, and that's it, or at least the basics.
Yeah,
because there's nothing else that I really apply that I learned in school and that I apply in the real world.
Do you think they need to be teaching something else, or should school just be eliminated completely?
I don't think it should be eliminated completely, but definitely like it should be done differently.
Okay.
It's just that I haven't thought about it. Like, for example, I look at my son and like I look at the options. I would want him to go to public school, but with what they're teaching now,
yeah,
he's probably not going to public school. Although like I would want him to, because that's where I went and that's what kind of molded me. Kind of like just not the ruggedness, but just public school definitely molded me to the person that I am.
Yep.
And so I would want him to experience that too. But it's just the things that they're teaching, it's like just I don't agree with. And so definitely I would change like what they're teaching for sure. At least what I hear, what they're teaching, I would change that for sure.
Yep.
And also the way that they think.
Yep.
I would change that. And then if you had the option to kind of restructure the education system, or what would you do differently, or what would you change? What would you keep, or would you keep it the same?
No, definitely like something. And that's something I've been seeing on social media, that a lot of people, they also not complain, but they bring up good arguments to, well, why don't they teach me how to do my taxes? Or why don't they teach me life skills? How to make my resume, how to apply for a job. If I want to do my business, like if I want to become an electrician, what's the path I need to take? If, how to do my taxes. Like, that's something I also agree with. Maybe that's something, they should start teaching in school. And that'll, by having the school system teach that, I think people, after high school, they're going to be in a lot better position. They're going to have more skills. They're going to be better adapted for the real world. And, I think overall it'll just be better. So that's something I personally agree with too, is, man, why aren't they teaching all this stuff that we had to learn outside? Like, I'm not applying the Pythagorean theorem. I'm not, using the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. That's something I still remember. I'm not using it, but it's so engraved into our heads that it's kind of useless information. It's just taking up space. Yeah. But I mean, that's something I would want in the future, or that's something I would have wanted. It's, like, you need to start saving, like to get a house, like in order for you to buy a house, you need like X amount of money for a down payment. So it's better to save. Okay, like how to balance your checking account. Don't spend more than what you're making. So like those principles that could be applied to the real world, that's something I would want.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that I agree with that, because if leaving high school, I think a lot of people will be in better positions than they currently are in. Yeah, and that's one of the things I don't understand why they don't teach that.
That's the curriculum for the school system.
But even then, it's like they can't think that it's not good. Not that it's not good. It's just like it doesn't help anybody.
How would they benefit? Because I know a lot of people, like they get to a certain position like in the school system, and they're making a good living, and they don't have to work, so they're not obligated or they're not motivated to change anything. So they just keep it the way it is.
It's just easier.
It's just easier to not do anything and not change anything, because it's a lot harder to, get people on board that the school system needs to change. So, that's my personal opinion, that it needs to, I don't know. It's going to be hard for it to change. And that's why I think it hasn't changed. Because, looking at myself, if I was at the top and, I was comfortable making a good living, I didn't want to do extra work. Like, why do I need to change the school system? It's just, it's been working. You know, like society hasn't fallen. So I mean, it's good enough. So let's just stick with what it is right now. But yeah, that's something like just bringing it back. That's something I would have wanted to learn. Just real principles of how to live outside of school. Just, you know, how to live life. That's pretty much it.
I think final thoughts is the school system isn't bad.
No.
But I think there's a lot of changes that need to be made in order for it to be actually helpful towards people. But in general, I would say that in a lot of cases, I don't recommend people going to school if they don't need to.
Yeah.
But, you know, for like you said, for other things like doctors and, you know, like maybe trade school, like, yeah. But in general, like, I think the school is more of a detriment than it is helpful.
Yep.
But I'm not saying, you know, it's just as a blanket statement that it's, you know, all bad, but in general.
And I think also, like, a reason too why people are still with the mindset of you need to go to college is because I know a lot of companies back then, that's something they required you to have, is a college degree. Because if you have a college degree, then, you know, you're more likely than not able to think more than if you just have a high school diploma. So I get it, but nowadays companies don't require that. Nope. It's not just even, like if you're...
No, I was gonna say, not even, like, there's a lot of Google and like tech positions that don't require you, like,
so it definitely changed. So like if companies change the way they hire people, then, you know, why hasn't the school system changed?
That's a good question. Getting into conspiracies, but that's a very good question. But
I'm sure you would agree, and I'm pretty sure a lot of business owners would agree. As long as you're able to do the job that you're required to do, it doesn't matter if you didn't graduate high school. Like, just, you know, be good at it, and you're gonna get the position. So
that's how we hire.
Yeah,
we don't hire for, like, you know, if you have a degree or not. It's just pretty much, can you do the like, what's your experience? Can you do the job? Can you do a good job at it? And that's pretty much, you know, like, in a general sense, that's what we look for. Nothing else.
But yeah, I mean, those were my personal opinions. Is there anything else you want to...
No, I think with that, that's it. No more opinions. What about you?
No, that's pretty much it. Maybe in the future we'll do another podcast talking about the education system once we, you know, as time goes by. But I think that's it for now. So I think with that, let us know your thoughts about your experience going to high school, going to college, being part of the education system. You know, let us know in the comments down below what you guys thought. Just let us know in the comments.
Yeah, and we'll see you on the next one. We're good.
I get so